Good afternoon and salam. I am Miriam Afalabi, a member of the MACFEST team. Welcome to MACFEST 2021. MACFEST is delighted to celebrate the South Asian heritage for the second year running, and we are thrilled to present a range of wonderful performances. I would like to request our audience to please follow MACFEST on our social media so that you'll be notified about our upcoming events. All our events are free and we dearly welcome donations. Now, I'm thrilled to invite Qaisra Shahraz MBE, our MACFEST Executive Director and international novelist, who will welcome on behalf of MACFEST and say a few words. Thank you, Qaisra.
Thank you, Mariam. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening, and assalamu alaikum, wherever you're sitting in the UK and around the world. Welcome and thank you for joining us for our very special festival celebrating South Asian heritage, which is in partnership with South Asian Heritage Month. We are really delighted to take you on a journey to 4 countries, mashallah, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. And we are offering you a real good feast, just as we did last year, a feast of literature, poetry, art, history, fashion, music, and dance performances at the end. So folks, please do hang on till the end. Thank you to all our guest speakers, and we have them representing the 3 countries and presenters presenting marvelous things from their countries. We are delighted that you're all taking part in MACFEST. Thank you to our chief guest, Diane Hawkins, our High Sheriff of Greater Manchester. She's joining us again, and we are absolutely delighted and thrilled. Thank you to Baroness Uddin, who's joining us from London. Thank you to Jaktar, who's joining us from the Sikh community from Manchester. Thank you to Harmesh, who's joining us from Wolverhampton all the way. So welcome to everybody. And without further ado, I will hand you back to Mariam, our host for this festival. Enjoy, everybody. We've got a lot in store for you. So back to you, Mariam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Qaisra. Now we'll take you to ancient Pakistan with Anila Saeed, a member of the MACFEST team and a teacher in Manchester. Enjoy a presentation about one of the oldest civilizations of the world, the Indus civilization, as she takes you on a historical journey to the ancient cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa in Pakistan, which was formerly a part of India. Thank you, Anila.
Hi, my name is Anila Saeed. I was born in Pakistan. I grew up in a city called Sahiwal, and Sahiwal is 25 kilometers from the ruins of a great city called Harappa. And today I would like to give you some insight into Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are the ruins of 2 great cities of the Indus Valley civilization. I hope you enjoy the information. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, the Indus Valley civilization. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were thought to be the 2 great cities of the Indus Valley civilization, emerging around 2600 BCE along the Indus River Valley in Sindh and Punjab provinces of Pakistan. If you have a look at the map, here are the Himalayan mountains, and there is Indus River. It's coming all the way down. You could see Harappa is here, which is in the Punjab province. And there is, in Sindh, you'll be able to see Mohenjo-daro, which is here. And then the Indus River finishes in the Arabian Sea. It is believed that the rivers of this area provided basic transport and water for people and enabled the local agriculture. This is what, from the ruins, it is believed that Harappa looked like this. As you can see, there are buildings, there are walkways. And Mohenjo-daro, this is the picture of the Great Bath, which is the public bath in Mohenjo-daro. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the world's 3 earliest widespread societies. The other 2 were Mesopotamia and Pharaonic Egypt. The Indus River Valley civilization was stretched over 1 million square kilometers of what is now Pakistan and India. The city of Harappa and the city of Mohenjo-daro, the two major cities and the greatest achievements of this culture, are well known for their impressive organized layout. The twin city had a similar layout and planning. The ruins of these cities show that the civilization was technologically advanced with the knowledge of efficient municipal governments and urban planning. These cities were well planned with roads, mud brick buildings with baths, citadels, excellent sewer systems, and wells for fresh water. These are two images from Harappa. You could see the walls of their buildings were quite thick. And I found this staircase really interesting in this picture. The ruins of Harappa were first described by Charles Mason in his book called Narratives of Various Journeys in Balochistan, Afghanistan, and Punjab, 1826 to 1836. But the significance of Harappa was not realized until much later. So Charles Mason only described what he's seen in his books without the knowledge of what he was actually describing. Because the significance of Harappa was not realized in early days, in 1857, the builders working under the British authorities used Harappan bricks in the constructions of the East Indian Railway line connecting Karachi and Lahore. So the builders were looking for some strong stone so they could lay the train lines or the rails on there. And they came across these bricks and they used those bricks to lay the railway lines. In 1912, Harappan seals were discovered, which triggered an excavation campaign under Sir John Marshall in 1921 to 22. Sir John Marshall was the Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India at the time. In reference to its first excavated city of Harappa, the Indus Valley civilization is also called the Harappan civilization. These are a couple of the images from Mohenjo-daro. You could see from this image here that it looks very well organized with the roads going in the middle and then the buildings on the sides. And this is the famous baths they used to have in those days, like kind of a swimming pool. Mohenjo-daro was not only the largest city of the Indus Valley civilization, but one of the world's earliest major urban centers. It was discovered in 1922 by R.D. Banerjee, and he was an officer of the Archaeological Survey of India. And it was discovered about 590 kilometers to the north of Harappa. Mohenjo-daro was one of the most sophisticated cities of that period, with advanced engineering and urban planning. Mohenjo-daro has a planned layout with rectilinear buildings arranged on a grid plan. Sites were often raised or built on man-made hills, probably to combat flooding in the nearby areas. City was well planned with roads, strong buildings with baths, citadels, sewer systems, and wells for fresh water, almost identical to Harappan ruins. Because the Harappan ruins, when the Harappan ruins were found, some of the brickwork has been used for other purposes. It does not show you the true picture of what the way that Indus Valley civilization is building their houses. But you can see from Mohenjo-daro, it is much clearer that they actually planned those buildings and they actually planned the roads and plan the way they want to organize their cities. It was the other thing they also realized was that there was a little difference in the living condition between the rich people and the poor people, and which tells you that there was equality in the society even at that time. This is an example of the Indus script. This script has not yet been decoded, but the efforts are still ongoing. So nobody knows what it says at the moment, but people are still working on them to be able to decode this. These are the seals which were found in Harappa. More than 3,500 seals have been found so far. In the civilization, they used these seals to make their, to mark their products. I'm going to give you an example, such as Nike. Nike would mark their products with their special Nike sign. And the Indus civilization would make these seals, and every family would have their own seals, and they would use those to mark their products. There were also some weights and measures which were found there as well. This shows that the Indus civilization understood mathematical concepts. The remains of these cities indicate remarkable organization. These cities were well ordered, water drainage and trash collection systems, and possibly even public granaries and baths. Individual homes drew water from wells, while wastewater was directed to covered drains on the main streets, spotting the conclusions that the cleanliness was a matter of great importance for these people. Many buildings were made of bricks, which were either sun-baked or fired in the oven to make them stronger. Copper and bronze were used to make tools and weapons. They had their own form of written language. They had their own seals, weights and measures. Remains of goods from the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia, they were found in both civilizations. Therefore, it tells you that trade was active between these two civilizations. Although the Indus Valley people did not leave great structures like the Pyramid of Egypt or the Great Wall of China, but they did help shape the modern world. However, it is still a mystery what led to the decline of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and the whole Indus Valley civilization. Theories mention invasion, disease, or natural disasters such as floods caused by the changes in the course of the Indus River. But a more pressing question is the decline of the site today. Excavation at Mohenjo-daro started about 100 years ago, and yet the structure that survived millennia have been severely damaged during this time. So in 100 years, it has been severely damaged. The structures are eroding and collapsing due to the improper restoration, neglect, looting, and the salt from the groundwater. Experimentations in restoration have actually made things worse, and some archaeologists believe that the site will not last another 20 to 30 years at this rate of decline. However, there's only 10% of this site has been excavated, and 90% is still untouched. Many of the remaining parts are below the water table today because of the changes in the course of the Indus River, and this makes these parts difficult to excavate. Considering the damage done to the parts which have been excavated, it might be better to leave the remaining parts alone so that this heritage can be passed on to the future generations who can hopefully better understand and appreciate this civilization. I hope you have enjoyed listening to this, and I hope you found the information interesting. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with you today. Thank you very much. Bye.
Wow, that was incredibly informative and interesting. Thank you, Anila, for taking the time to deliver this wonderful presentation. We're delighted to welcome again our chief guest speaker, Miss Diane Hawkins, High Sheriff of Greater Manchester, joining us from Bolton. Thank you for presiding over the event, Diane. We really appreciate your support and interest in our festival. Thank you, Diane, and over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. And once again, I'm delighted to be joining MACFEST today. It has been such a journey of discovery for me, joining you a few months ago and again several times since then. And once again, I'm learning so much today from joining in your presentations. And MACFEST was such a wonderful idea of Qaisra's 3-4 years ago. And so much good has come out of it since then, culminating this year in the award of the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service to MACFEST, which is a huge honour. It's like the MBE for voluntary groups, and it really recognises all that MACFEST is doing in terms of connecting communities and overcoming barriers. And it is so positive when looked at against the background of so much that is hateful in this world and so many people trying to promote division rather than connection. And you really are to be congratulated in all that you have achieved. I have learned so much already, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the programme today. Every time I join MACFEST, I learn a lot more that's new, and I end up with a reading list or a list of topics to investigate further. So you really are educating me this year, and I'm delighted and thankful for it. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me here once again. I am truly delighted to join you, and I do commend all the volunteers of MACFEST, because I really believe that you are getting a great deal out of this, as well as everybody else who is joining in and watching from all around the world. I think Zoom has been a fantastic addition to our armoury this year. It's a shame we can't have real live events in person, but this is almost as good and has the huge advantage that I see we have people from all over the world joining us, and that really is a fantastic achievement. So well done everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me, and please do all enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you again, Diane. Next, we welcome Hamish Mangra, an educationist and a former HMI. We are delighted to have him join us from Wolverhampton. Originally from India, he will share his passion for poetry, including the Punjabi poetry of a famous Indian poet, Shiv Kumar Batlavi. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Qaisra, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really honored to be part of the celebration of shared history, language, culture, and arts. I'm delighted to be part of this, and Facebook has connected me back to my culture as well. It's not a static thing, it keeps moving. After so many years, I had picked up something on Shiv Kumar Batalvi, so he's kind of reintroduced me to it. So this is about reuniting us with our culture and promote understanding amongst various communities. And it's also about informing our youth of the rich heritage that we have, and I want them to understand their roots. My name is Hamish, and I was born in Calcutta, West Bengal. I spent my childhood years in Bengal and learned to speak and read Bengali. At 13, I moved to Punjab. I'm a student of literature, and I listened to Shiv Kumar Batalvi's poems while at my local college. And indeed, I had the honor of hearing him perform live in the college. During the partition in 1947, India and Pakistan was divided on linguistic lines that separated Bengali and Punjabi communities. 80% of Punjab went to Pakistan and 20% came to India. There was a mass movement of people. Many were killed in the name of religion, displaced, lost homes, families, livelihoods, friends, and the neighbors became enemies. Punjabi language is spoken by some 113 million people across the world. 80 million of those are in Pakistan and about 31 million in India. 500,000 in Canada and 300,000 roughly each in USA and Britain. So we've come a full circle, united in a language and culture. Now, Punjabi is spoken in Pakistan, but there's no official recognition of the language. Although it's known as Shahmukhi, written in the Urdu script, and in Punjab, India, it's written script and its recognized language is called Gurumukhi, written by the Sikh Gurus and in the holy book, Shri Guru Granth Sahib. Today, I'm going to talk about Shiv Kumar Batalvi, a Hindu Punjabi poet who was born in 1936 in Badapind, which is now in Pakistan. His family moved to Batala town in Gurdaspur district in Punjab, along with his family. So Shiv Kumar Batalvi didn't finish his studies. His first love was poetry. That is him. So his first love was poetry and folklore. He fell in love with a young woman who was the daughter of an eminent poet writer, but she didn't accept his proposal. It's considered that it's this rejection that inspired him or became the driving force behind his poetry. In his poetry, there are three recurring themes: separation, and many people believe it was to do with the separation of uprooting from Pakistan, Punjab to Indian Punjab and the friends and family he lost, and also separation from his beloved as well. Death, he's got very strong death wish in all his poems, and love. He was a prolific writer who wrote many poems in his short lifetime. He died at the age of 37. At the age of 28, he was awarded the highest literary award from the National Academy of India of Literature. He was the youngest person to have achieved that so far. That was for his epic poem, epic verse called Luna. Luna is the story of a young wife who is married against her wishes to a much older king. The king had a son from his previous marriage who was the same age as Luna. She falls for the young Puran. The relationship that is a taboo. The society of the time regarded Luna as the villain, that she seduced him. But Shiv took an opposite viewpoint. He wrote the poem from the viewpoint of Luna. The rebel streak was unheard of. He paints Luna as a victim of patriarchy and sexism, where women are not supposed to have their own desires and they cannot choose their destiny. Shiv Kumar Batalvi married the girl that his parents chose for him. He had 2 children. Sadly, his influences, love, alcohol, and friends, three driving forces behind him. His friends knew that he was at his best when he was in a stupor. So they kept feeding him with alcohol and they just egged him on to write poetry. He wrote many, many poems, and I will put some links on the chat. He died at the age of 37. His songs, his poems have been popularized by many singers, such as Jagjit Singh, Hans Raj Hans, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, and there will be 2 clips of videos that you will see a bit later on. So, one of the poems, he talks very briefly. I feel like I'm a pretender. I haven't really read him so much since my early days. He says, Joban rutte jo koi marda, full bane ja tara. Those who die young, they either become a flower or they become a star. And asata jobun utte marna, that I will die young. So he did die young indeed. I've got a lot of information on Wikipedia. His poetry has inspired many poets, and I'll leave you with two short videos. Steve, take it away.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਬੋਲ ਹੰਡਾਣਾ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਚਾਹ ਨਾ ਕਾਈ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਟੀ ਲਾਣਾ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਨਮਿਆ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿਸ਼ਤੀ ਜਾਣਾ ਇਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਗੀਤ किसे ना गाना मैं ते मेरे गीत ने दोहा जद पढ़ के मर जाना बिरहों दे कर जाइयां सानू कबरी लभण आउणा सबना सैया एक आवाज़े मुखों बोल अलाना किसे किसे दे लेखी हुंदा एडा दर्द कमाना ये मेरा गीत किसे नहीं गाना ये मेरा गीत मैं आपे गा के पल के ही मर जाना ये मेरा गीत किसे ना गाना
Thank you. I hope you get the feel for the poetry. There is more that unites us. For me, it's the history that unites us and the language. And the culture and arts are just icing on the cake, really. So let's enjoy and celebrate each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamish, for treating us to Shiv's beautiful poems. We really enjoyed them. Next, we welcome Afzal Khan, CBE, and Member of Parliament as our chief guest speaker. Afzal is a huge supporter of MACFEST from the outset. He attends our events regularly like Diane. We are delighted that he was able to celebrate our last year's South Asian Festival, bringing together countries of South Asia. Thank you, Afzal Khan, for joining us again. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Sasrikar. Shalom. It's a wonderful to be here with you once again. And let me start by actually saying how beautiful it was listening to Ramesh Bhai about Punjabi poetry as my heritage. He talked about 130 million. I am one of the 130 million. And his choice, again sung by Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali, is such a beautiful poetry which can resonate with any human. As a mother, it's such a powerful relationship. So thank you, Ramesh. But let me say a big thank you to MACFEST and my dear sister, Qaisra Shahraz, who I've known for many years, probably approaching well over 20 years now. And all these periods, she has been doing some amazing work in the literature side and then in this area of richness, diversity, celebration, so, pulling people together, which I think really is the need of the day as well. So richly recognized both for herself and also for MACFEST, for Her Majesty the Queen. So thank you, Qaisra, for an amazing work that you do. We need more Qaisras like you in the world to have a beautiful world. The subject, of course, today is celebrating South Asian heritage. And this is the second year. I'm pleased that again, second year, I've been able to join you and I look forward to this. And I think, it's already said, Ramesh was saying this as well, that we always have more in common. The truth is, at a very deep level, we're all human beings. And at that basic level, we only have one humanity and we only have one world. Everything else comes after. We can have different faiths, we can have different languages, we can have so many different things. These are all layers which are built on top of the humans. We've got to remain focused on this, our common humanity. it will always be more in common. And those differences that we talk about, in fact, they're part of this bouquet of flower, which enriches us more. And through this, we enrich our lives more. And that is why I think having events like this is so important. Today, you're going to yourself with a huge thousands and thousands of years of culture, which connects up actually, which again is part of the same message of humanity. You know, whether you're from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, we share so much. Who we are today is actually linked to this thousands and thousands of years of civilization. Mohenjo-daro that you talked about, you know, often you hear in the West, dark ages. And I always say, yes, dark ages for West. It doesn't mean the whole world was dark. There was a lot of light, lots of parts of the world. And in that sense, I think what is good is that we are here in the 21st century. And in this, what we have is a global village. The means we have now to travel, the means we have now to connect and communicate with one another. This Zoom is a good example of this communication, that in this very program, we have people in so many different countries also joining with us and enjoying this. So in this first aspect, you can say how the world has become a global village, how we have become interconnected, interdependent with one another, and how we actually all have a share in this civilization. Because where we are today has been accumulated in the thousand years of other civilization contributions. So we all have a share in this civilization too. So why we need to celebrate? And when I see some of these difficulties and differences, you know, which build the tension and then the wars and everything, you know, we look around some of that in South Asia. Sadly, in Afghanistan today, again, things are flaring up, which is painful in a sense. And it always reminds me, as someone living here and who was a member of the European Parliament, that the key point ultimately is Europe had all this history. Europe had all these wars. 1,000 years of history of war. Every 40, 50 years there were war. They gave the world 2 world wars where millions of people died. But ultimately you see when you work together, when you work on a commonality, then what happens? And they got the European Union. And through European Union, they've got the biggest economy in the world. They set the mark now for the world, how other economies have to operate, and how they were able to alleviate poverty, how they were able to then make the development, and how now they are the biggest contributors for alleviating poverty and development in the world. So this is there for South Asians too. On the celebration point, I'd say is this, you know, we live here in a global village, we're connected, but it's also important for us to pass this message on to our next generation. And in that aspect too, it's important that we celebrate. And that's why I take my hats off to people like my sister, Qaisra Shahraz, for the work she does. It also connects our next generation. You know, if we have young people who are confident in their heritage, who they are, their identity, then they're going to be strong citizens. So that's also there. And that's why I also work on diversifying the curriculum in our schools, that we have this correct history. Because always the victors write the history and they polish it up in a particular manner and push away lots of other things. And that's why I think that having these events is also important. I'm looking forward to the rest of the program. I once again want to thank Qaisra Shahraz and her team for this amazing work they're doing for all of us. Thank you, Qaisra, and enjoy the rest of the program. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for your stimulating speech, Hafsal. MACFEST is really grateful for all your support. We are now delighted to take you to Afghanistan with Lisa Rasool from Manchester, a member of the Heart and Parcel team. She will take you into the traditional fashion of Afghani women and as well introduce and entertain us about the Afghani folk, art and dance. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us today, and over to you.
Thank you, Mariam. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Lisa Rasool. I'm from Afghanistan. I was born in Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan. I have been living in the UK since 2015. I'm married. I have 3 children. I'm speaking 6 languages: Dari, Farsi, Urdu, English, and little bit Arabic and Punjabi. Thank you. Next slide, please. I want to share with you my Afghanistan map. There is a lot of country around Afghanistan. You can see Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, India. The capital city is Kabul. Our president is Ashraf Ghani. The official languages is Dari and Pashto. Next slide, please. Our lovely flag, Afghanistan flag. Next slide, please. I'm introducing to you the Afghan traditional woman gun. Originally, the dress was used by nomadic women in Afghanistan. Afghanistan traditional woman dress. She's Ariana Said. She's very famous and international singer from Afghanistan. Next slide, please. This is a bride and groom in traditional dresses. At wedding, women can wear any color they like, but in national program, women only choose black, red, and green, because these 3 colors are of the Afghanistan flag. Next slide, please. It includes head cover, gun, and shalwar. The set is made from colorful fabrics and fully cover woman's body from head to feet with added traditional decoration. Next slide, please. The gun is worn with a lot of specially made traditional jewelry. For example, earrings, ring, bracelets, necklace. Next slide, please. These days, the styles of the set is changed a bit to keep the traditional Afghan women wear the set in special occasion, celebration, wedding, and national days. It is a symbol of international traditions, Afghanistan, and is known internationally. Next slides, please. This is as well as new styles, both of them. Next slides, please. Afghanistan traditional group attend dance in this short video. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for sharing the Afghani culture and fashion with us. The audience, including myself, are really stunned by the bright and beautiful clothing and jewelry. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Next, we take you to Bangladesh with our guest speaker, Baroness Manzila Paula Udin, a passionate lover of Bengali poetry, in particular, the poet that you will soon learn about. She joins us from London. We are delighted that she is with us, and as we know, it's a busy day for her. Thank you and welcome, Baroness Udin.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, Mariam, distinguished High Sheriff, Mr. Hamish, my brother, Afzal Khan MP. But most of all, thank you very, very much from my heart. It's a heartfelt, warm love and affection for Qaisra. Of course, I've also known her for over 2 decades, and it's been an honor. Thank you to all the MACFEST team. And I think what everyone has said is, all the sentiment that I share. And I love what Afzal Khan has said about the beautiful layers of our common humanity. And you're absolutely right. The Western Dark Ages were our enlightened years, I think, and centuries. So thank you for introducing me as someone born in Bangladesh. And I've lived here nearly now, I think, 48 odd years, something like that. The rebel poet that I wish to make reference to is Qazi Nazrul Islam, who was born in 1989 and left this earth in 1976, on the years that I was married, actually, and in Manchester, with which I have long love and attachment to, where my 2 children were born. So the Qazi Nazrul Islam was conferred by Bangladesh to be the national poet of Bangladesh, the prolific rebel with a cause for freedom, for love of Bangla language against oppression, and his life of devotion and calls for political social justice. He was rightly known with the title of Bidrohi Kobi. Interestingly enough, that he also worked as a muezzin, in a masjid. So he called for adhan. So he was not just a prolific writer and a lover of literature and an admirer of Parsi, as well as Urdu ghazal and Urdu poetry. He genuinely was influenced by those. He joined the British Army in the First World War and served between 1917 and 20. He was posted in Karachi, where he was influenced by the Urdu ghazals. Yet he has never been recognized by Britain in any formal way or international community, although India has, of course, conferred Padma Bhushan, and Bangladesh awarded Qazi Nazrul Ekushe Padak in 1976, and posthumously the Independence Day Award. So I believe that he was never recognized in the way that he should have been rightly, and the way that Rabindranath Tagore was, is because he was a rebel in that sense, asking for freedom and justice against the British. And he was also a Muslim. His legacy is a lifetime of work, and his indelible work has marked huge significance on millions of women and men and children of many countless generations. So he was also a journalist, and his criticism of British occupation and call for independence and asking young people to rise up. That was Muslim and Hindus together united, rise up, caused the fact that he was imprisoned. And his words invoking the young people to rise, his prediction of Anandamoy Agomon, which is, the future, coming future is going to be something, very inspiring. He said that the coming of warrior Durga to set people free, which people drained by the butchery, this was his quote, at the hands of colonizers would lead to him to be imprisoned as anti-colonial movement began to spread fiercely in Calcutta. His call for action was a sharp contrast to the peaceful protest and high-minded subjugation of others in that period. He was greatly influenced, as I said, by others in literature. And his sentiment would have been a source of courage and prerana, which is inspiration. Prerana is a Bangla word, to generations of leaders who battled nations' right of self-determination and independence. His outcry in his defense in court, he read aloud the deposition of a political prisoner, contrasting tyranny of many followers, contrasting the tyranny of colonial rule. And his magazine called Dhumketu, which was a comet, his journal, Nazrul said, on one hand is the crown of state, and on the other, the flaming comet. One is king with a mandate to conduct a convict, and the other is mandated for truth and beaming with justice. For his invocation, he received 1 year prison sentence. Personally, what I want to say about him is that he was an insurmountable influence in my life. I knew of his music, of his poetry, since I could speak, because he inspired a generation of my mothers into the and her family, and subsequently me into the language movement and the liberation of Bangladesh. He was so influenced that, in fact, when I came into this country and I joined my O-level music at the age of 14, I couldn't play any of the instrument except harmonium. And I sang his song, for which I've got a B in O-level music. So that's my, sort of little bit of contribution, but also to myself, because I think he's enlivened the cultural nuances of my generation. And in fact, I suppose my final comment would be about that is when I began my community activism in 1980s, 90s in East End of London, when we built the very, very first Asian, so-called Asian at that time, Women's Education Resource Center, which was meant for all women in Tower Hamlets, that I named it Jagonari, based on the premises of what Nazrul inspired in his poem called Nari, which he invokes women to say that they are free, they're equal, and that they can achieve whatever it is that befalls them, before them. So how I want to just say that his legacy is our, not just ours, but the fact that Tazreen and Shoaib are about to talk about his work means that it is forever lasting. And just like all the poets, including Shiv Kumar, Rabindranath Tagore, and all the poets of the ages, they inspire, they continue to live amongst us because of their work. And I just want to say his last word, which is that his impact is as relevant today as it was when he first uttered the words of Bidrohi resistance. In his words, in madness of recluse, in madness of self-recluse, at the sight of grief, anguish of the dejected, I have arisen alone with my head held high. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baroness Udin, for providing us with such enlightening information. Now we take you on a literally poetic journey to Bangladesh with Shuaib and Tazreen Salim, a husband and wife team who represent Beehive Trust in Manchester. They will introduce two very famous poets of Bengali poetry and read the poetry in English and Bangla. Welcome and thank you. Over to you, Shuaib.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you very much, Qaisra, for allowing us to participate, and Baroness Uddin, thank you for touching on Qazi Nazrul's work. We're going to show you some of our work. First of all, just want to say Shagatom to everybody and all participants. And for us, myself and my wife will be presenting, and in a few moments we'll be reciting two poets, one from Rabindranath Tagore and one from Qazi Nazrul Islam, his famous poet Bidrohi. So our greatest poet and expert, Rabindranath Tagore, those of you from the subcontinent will know. He's the author of our national anthem, Amar Shunar Bangla, whose collection of songs and novels and poets are famously known as Rabindra Sangeet. Tagore is to Bengali literature as to what Shakespeare is to English literature. He is our very own bard. Tagore began his career in short stories in 1877 at the age of 16 with Bikarini, the beggar woman. With this, Tagore effectively invented the Bengali language short story genre. The English translations of Gitanjali, or Song Offerings, is a collection of 103 poems, which are Tagore's own English translation of his Bengali poems, and was first published in November 1912. The Nobel Prize in Literature of 1913 was awarded to Rabindranath Tagore because of its profoundly sensitive, fresh and beautiful verse by which, with consummate skill, he has made his poetic thought expressed in his own English words, thus becoming part of the literature of the West. In a moment, I will ask my wife to recite one of the poems from Gitanjali, Ontoro Momo Bikoshito Koro, and then I will translate that in English for you. Tazreen?
Ontoro Momo Bikoshito Koro, Ontoro Toro He, Nirmal Koro, Ujjol Koro, Sundor Koro He, Jagrot Koro, Uddot Koro, Nirbhoy Koro He, Mongol Koro, Nirolosh Nisshongshoy Koro He, Ontoro Momo Bikoshito Koro, Ontoro Toro He, Jukto Koro He Shobar Songe, Mukto Koro He Bondhu, Sanchar Koro Sokol Korme, Shanto Tomar Chondo, Chorono Podde Momochito Nispondito Koro He, Nondito Koro, Nondito Koro, Nondito Koro He, Ontoro Momo Bikoshito Koro, Ontoro Toro He.
Thank you. So especially for those of you who are not versed in the Bengali language, I will do a quick recital of this in English, and I apologize for my lack of poetic skills. Make my soul blossom as a flower, thou who art my very own. Make me pure, bathe in blessed light, and make me beautiful in your eyes. Awaken me and give me the strength to cast aside all fear. Shower me with your love, so that I may grow tireless in casting aside all doubt. Lead me into the world and free me from all obstacles. Imbue all my actions with your gentle tune. Let my soul dance to the beat of your feet. Welcome me, greet me, and acknowledge me. Thank you. Next, we will come to Baroness Uddin's favorite poet. And I will say, just like Harmesh, I am now learning to understand my language and my literature more than I was, having been brought up in this country over the last 40 odd years. The rebel poet is Qazi Nazrul, and he is our national poet of Bangladesh. Qazi Nazrul Islam was a poet, he was a writer, musician, and our national poet. Known simply as Nazrul, his poetry and music had themes of religious devotion and rebellion against the oppression of the British Raj. Nazrul's activism for political justice and social justice earned him the title of Bidrohi Kabi, the rebel poet. As a young man, he was a muezzin. He learned about poetry, drama, and literature while working with a theatrical group called Letor Dheko. Joining the army in 1917 And after the war, he became a journalist, criticizing the British Raj and called for revolution through his work, such as Bidrohi, the rebel, Bhangar Gan, the Song of Destruction. This led to his frequent imprisonment by the colonial masters. While in prison, Nazrul wrote Raj Bandir Joban Bandi, deposition of a political prisoner. His writings inspired the Bengalis of East Pakistan during the liberation war of 71. Nazrul's writings explored freedom, humanity, love, and revolution. He opposed all forms of bigotry. Nazrul wrote short stories, novels, and essays, but is best known for his songs and poems. He introduced ghazals to the Bengali language and extensively used Arabic and Persian in his work. Nazrul's work is collectively known as Nazrul Geet, and in 1942, at the very young age of 43, he began to suffer from an unknown disease, losing his voice and memory, diagnosed as Pick's disease, rare and incurable, causing his health to decline steadily and forced him to live in isolation. At the invitation of the Bangladeshi government, his family took him to Bangladesh, and in 1972, they were awarded the citizenship of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, dying peacefully 4 years later on the 29th of August. We will now recite his famous poem, Bidrohi. Sadly, this is a very long poem, so we will only recite just the 2 verses. And I will ask Tazreen to do the Bengali recital first, and again, I will do the English translation. Tazreen, please.
বলো বীর বলো উন্নত মম শির শিরে নেহারি আমারি নত শির ওই শিখর হিমাদ্রির বলো বীর বলো মহাবিশ্বের আকাশে ফারি চন্দ্র সূর্য গ্রহ তারা ছাড়ি ভোলক দোলক গোলক ভেদিয়া খোদার আসনে আরশ ছেদিয়া উঠিয়াছি চির বিস্ময় আমি বিশ্ববিধাত্রীর মম ললাটে রুদ্র ভগবান জলে রাজ রাজটিকা দীপ্ত জয়শ্রীর বল বীর আমি চির উন্নত মমশীল আমি চির দুর্দম দুর্বিনীত নিঃশংস মহাপ্রলয়ের আমি নটরাজ আমি সাইক্লোন আমি ধ্বংস আমি মহাভয় আমি অভিশাপ পৃথিবীর আমি দুর্বার আমি ভেঙে করি সব চুরমার আমি অনিয়ম শৃঙ্খল আমি দলে যাই যত বন্ধন নিয়ম কানুন শৃঙ্খল আমি মানি না কোনো আইন আমি ভরা তরি করি ভরা ডবি আমি টর্পেটো আমি ভীম ভাসমান মাইন আমি দুর্জটি আমি ওলকেশে ঝড় আকাশ অকালে বৈশাখী আমি বিদ্রোহী শত বিশ্ববিধাত্রীর বলবীর চির উন্নত মমশীর
Thank you, Tazreen. So in English, proclaim, hero, proclaim, rending through the sky, surpassing the moon, the sun, the planets, the stars, piercing through the earth, the heavens, the cosmos, and the Almighty's throne. Have I risen? The eternal wonder of the creator of the universe, the furious Shiva, shines on my forehead. Like a royal medallion of victory, proclaim, hero, proclaim, my head is ever held high. I'm ever indomitable, arrogant and cruel. I'm the dance king of the day of the doom. I'm the cyclone, the destruction. I'm the great terror. I'm the curse of the world. I'm unstoppable. I smash everything into pieces. I'm unruly and lawless. I crush under my feet all the bonds, rules, and disciplines. I don't obey any laws. I sink cargo-laden boats. I'm the torpedo. I'm the dreadful floating mine. I'm the destructive Durjati, the sudden tempest of time. I'm the rebel son of the creator of the universe. Just want to say to Qaisra and everyone and the panelists, thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to showcase 2 of our poets and allowing us to participate in this festival. We participated a few years ago with yourself at the masjid, and please follow ourselves as well, as our barbecue will be held at the Shah Jalan Mosque in Manchester in the future, and check us out on our Facebook and our internet pages. Thank you very much, everyone. Dhannabad.
Thank you very much, Shoaib and Tazreen, for your wonderful delivery of the Bengali poetry and also of the invitation to your barbecue. We are delighted to welcome Jakhtar Singh, a member of the Sikh community from Manchester. He organizes and hosts many events for the Sikh and Indian community. Also like Hamesh, is a former colleague of Qaisra. You will introduce last presenters, the art and dance by Sonia Sharma and Malika Kapasi. They will entertain you fusion dance performances from India and Sonia and artists as well, and will share and talk about some of our artwork. Welcome and thank you, Jakta. We are glad that you're able to join us this year.
Thanks, Mariam. Sat Sri Akal, Assalamu Alaikum, Namaste, and a very good evening. Now, let me take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate Qaisra for organizing this wonderfully entertaining and informative program to celebrate South Asian heritage. I'm really honored to be part of this program, and I have really enjoyed everything which is included in the program. Now, a bit about myself. I was born in India, and at a very young age of 4 years, I migrated to Kenya, Africa, with my parents. And there, I grew up in a very multicultural society. And that is happening again. So I'm back in Manchester for last 35, 40 years in a very multicultural society as well. And that's why I found what Afzal Khan said as very valuable and a very, very clear view what and where should be focusing on in future. It also resonates what Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikh faith, said, that there is only one race, and that is the human race. A big thank you to Harmesh, because he brought memories of the famous poet Shiv Kumar Batalvi. He was perhaps the most intense poet of Punjabi. My age group people grew up singing and reciting his poems. But as Lord Byron said, whom gods love, they die young. And at a very tender age of 37 years, Shiv Kumar Batalvi left us. He perhaps knew that he was going to die young. And he, in his own words, said, "Asi te joban rutte marna, tur jana asi pare bhrai," meaning, I will die in my prime, which is Sonia Sharma and Malika Kapasi. I met Sonia more than 20 years ago when she performed at our Vaisakhi Mela. Since then, I have seen her develop into and demonstrate her talents in many different art forms and formats. This list is so long and impressive that I'll have to refer to my notes. She can perform all types of dances, from classical to folk. She's a trained yoga practitioner and instructor. She's a trained Zumba instructor. She runs classes to teach all these skills to all members of all ages. In addition to that, she is a very talented and imaginative painter as well. 2 of her paintings were showcased and auctioned in 50 Windows of Creativity, which was hosted by We in the City, and the proceeds were donated for charitable purposes. Her partner in dance, Malika Kapasi, is equally versatile. Although her main job is that of a project manager, but she runs marathons to raise money for charities. She loves Indian music and dance forms. Today we have Sonia showcasing her art, and then it will be followed by Sonia and Malika's captivating dance performance. So let's welcome and sit back and enjoy the presentations from Sonia and Malika. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonia Sharma, and I've created a duo of paintings entitled Hope. My paintings are a reflection of my passion for dance and music, which is expressed through an artistic creation. My first painting is called The Light of Hope. This has a deep connection to the pandemic. People are scared, worried, and missing their loved ones. It has changed everyone's lives all across the world. The restrictions and way of life has changed since COVID-19 has arrived. This is why painting is called The Light of Hope. Its content presents a hope of everyone coming through this difficult time and a ray of light to endeavor. The 100 languages signifies unity in diversity. It defines the essence of oneness of mankind. The second piece is titled Conquer from Within. I'm inspired by meditation with a passion of music, dance, and painting. This work gives different elements of elegance and an expression of the 7 chakras. That means 7 colors in a whole new light. We want the freedom of the mind and the peace to oneself in all situations of life.
आई हो कहाँ से गोरी आँखों में प्यार लेके आई हो कहाँ से गोरी आँखों में प्यार लेके दिल्ली शहर का सारा मीना बाजार लेके झुमका बरली वाला कानों में ऐसा डाला झुमके ने ले ली मेरी जान हाय रे मैं तेरी कुर्बान गजरा मोहब्बत वाला अखियों में ऐसा डाला गजरे ने ले ली मेरी जान हाय रे मैं तेरी कुर्बान manu kane.
Thank you very much, Sonia and Malika, for your amazing performances. Now I will hand back to Qaisra to thank everyone.
Hello, everyone again. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and Sat Sri Akal. What can I say? What an amazing feast. I think you will agree with me. So thank you to our amazing presenters for their amazing contributions from 4 countries. So thank you to the Beehive Group. Thank you to Harmesh. Thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Anila. Thank you to the amazing girls who just finished the last act, Sonia and Malika. And of course, thank you to our very special guest speakers representing the 4 countries and joining us for this amazing afternoon. And of course, thank you to our own Steve for technically hosting it behind the scene. And of course, Mariam for being our amazing host today, introducing everybody. And of course, my own team at the back. Okay, I would just want to remind you, of course, I will also thank our amazing guests who have joined us from around the world, including Thailand, Morocco, Indonesia. Thank you so much. So you'll see a poster in front of you. That is for our next feast we have in store for you, all the way from the Arab world. We are celebrating Arab Heritage Week in September. We have 4 or 5 events for you. Please do join us for those. And of course, as you know, our festival is free, more or less, 100%. Donations are always welcome. And now, finally, thank you for joining us, everyone, wherever you are sitting. So thank you and goodbye. And we'll see you, inshallah, in September. So, assalamu alaikum, namaste, Sat Sri Akal.
Namaskar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you.